Deathwatch.
Hi, I'm Chris with Deathwatch Productions for this, the 16th episode of A Prophecy of Dusk and Dawn. We're down a player this week, so my current players will introduce themselves.
I'm Brandon, still playing Landon Velox, the best character.
No one's challenging him, so it must be true.
I'm Travis. I'm playing Hadrius Elenius Ordius, a simple merchant, soon to set off to the north to catch a ship to the south to trade copper to the thieves and villains in Maris Oris, from which I hail. But I'm no thief or villain.
I guess it's true. No one's contesting that either.
No, I won't contest it. But you won't be going anywhere, because now you work for me.
Do I?
I'm a lord.
That's true. I have been nervous to interact with lords getting pressed into some service I don't want to do.
I'd prefer it be pronounced laird.
Laird.
I'm a laird.
I thought when I got to this place we're at that Chris would conscript me, and I'd be like a really bad conscript soldier.
Let's make him be in the army.
Yeah. Well.
You're like, I need fighters, not merchants.
Get a spear.
Yeah. All right, so Hadrius, you wake up in your tent. You are part of the army now.
How'd this happen to me?
You have no recollection of the night before. All right, so Duke Slow sat on a well-padded chair inside the antechamber of his room. From outside, the sounds of a broom scraping across the cobbled stone of the courtyard drifted in through the open window, carried by a cool breeze. As of late, he found himself dreading his monthly audience with the common folk, sitting upon the chair of his station, a lesser imitation of the throne that has sat empty in the Castrum Solis for several millennia now, caused him great suffering for weeks afterwards. His lunch sat off on a table to his right, now forgotten and left for the flies that had already begun to gather. Low's thoughts wandered, briefly, to a merchant he had met earlier this morning, especially that merchant's odd apprentice. Something was off there, but always his mind returned to the more pressing issues, the encamped Veloxian army on his northern bank. All the fault laid at their feet. All fault laid at the feet of House Velox, and those monsters Leofric called sons. Low thought, even just briefly thinking about the bastard sitting in the hot cells near the top of the Castrum's towers, set Low's heart hammering in his chest and his breath coming up short in his lungs. It was against the law that he held so dear to execute Gerard without proper trial. But if the creature succumbed to the heat, surely the fault couldn't be laid at his feet. The dark thought was interrupted by the rapid approach of booted feet in the hallway outside the chambers. A second later, a servant burst through the door. "My lord, The servant couldn't even finish his sentence before Duncan the Younger strode into the room. Low was shocked at the sight of his son. It looked like a corpse had come back to life and walked into the room, but it was him, complete with a new pipe jutting from the corner of his mouth, filling the room with sweet-smelling smoke. "My son! What did those monsters do to you?" Low cried, standing a little too quickly and rushing over to his son, wrapping him in a warm embrace. "Please, father," Duncan grunted, his words slurred by the pipe in his mouth. "I'm still quite sore from my mistreatments." The elder Low released him and took a step back to get a better look at his baby boy. He wore a worried look on his face. "By Solar, those monsters beat you. Damn Leofric and his whole house." A look of shock came over Duncan's face, Duncan's sunken and skull-like face. He had never heard his father speak in such a foul manner, going so far as to call upon Solar to damn an entire family, a sign of how much recent events had begun to weigh on the elder Low's shoulders. Duncan started to speak, but found himself at a loss. "No, father. The only Velox to have wronged us is currently locked away in the cells." "How so?" the elder Low asked, a puzzled look creasing his brow. "It would seem that another party, unknown to us as of now, has conspired to break up our little alliance. From outside the window, unnoticed by the two men, the sounds of the sweeping broom had stopped. So that is the third. We're going to start with Landon here. Third, a new summer. Some quick notes that I forgot to go over last week is that the missing scouts from Duncan the Younger's party, like his houndmaster and his various hunters that would drive game his way, their corpses were found near the bandit camp, and they were found in a state that appeared to be of ritual sacrifice. They had been nailed to a tree. They had been disemboweled, and their intestines had been wrapped around the tree. If you wish to view that, you could have.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they would have alerted me at the time, and I wouldn't have been able to help but go look.
All right. And so if you can make a sense for me.
But when I see it, what was that movie we watched when we were kids where there was like down in the subway and there was like some creature?
And Relic?
One of the,
or
like the security guard guy.
The Mimic?
Yeah. And he made the most outrageous exclamation when he saw something down there. That's what I would say. I can't remember what it was, but I know Travis and I couldn't help but laugh uproariously about it. So yeah, I'd see that and be like, well, I've got a failure here on my sense.
All right. You can push if you want, or you can just let it stand.
And now, am I doing this sense as I see this or before I see the...
As you see it.
Okay, well, I'll push it then.
All right.
Because I'd be...
Okay.
Success. I'd be really working hard to try and figure out what I could about this.
All right.
Because I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah.
Or even probably heard of.
So you come up upon the scene. The bodies, they're covered in creeping vines and look to be a month old and desiccated. With your newly gained senses, you see that the remaining energies that you've come to associate with things, both living, dead, or inanimate, just the various like emotions, strong emotion that could play off of it, have been leached into the vines and are being carried away. And you can kind of still see residuals of this. It's almost like highlighted. You see it sweeping off to the east, the northeast.
Okay.
But yeah, so the state of decay would be something that would surprise you because they haven't been here a month. They've been here at most seven-ish days, I believe.
Yeah.
When that happened.
All right. So what is to the east or northeast?
Castrum Noctis.
Okay. And that's the... Yeah. Okay.
But it is the Leshy that is draining it.
Right.
So now we'll fast forward to the 3rd of New Summer. Your father had just kind of welcomed you home, I believe.
Yeah.
And we're gonna jump a little bit further in time, but he said that he'd be dining soon and that you were invited to join him, you and Leodin, as well as the Cometus that is able to. The other ones still being seen to by the church, and as is Chelsis.
Okay.
And so you go to your tent, like, get ready?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, an invitation from my father's in order.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'll go and get ready.
You find fresh clothing laid out for you. I think you've already changed once and had a bath.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, since you came here. So if you want, that could be something you do again, but...
I won't do a bath again, but
yeah.
I'll change into the... Who set the clothes out?
There are various servants that work these camps. Not quite sure. I like the idea of like every Marine being a gunman.
Mm-hmm.
So I think every servant is at least a low-level soldier.
Okay.
That they're at least trained.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they either rotate off various duties, and one of those duties is serving their officers.
All right. So what I do, if my clothes are fine, I don't need to bathe or change. But I did want to talk with Chelsis alone.
Okay.
And say, there's obviously some strange things happening here, and we don't know who to trust. So I need you to take back control of my, my servants and my quarters, and not let anybody in and out of here that you haven't personally vetted.
All right, so roll luck for me.
Just normal?
Mm-hmm.
Success.
All right. So you find Chelsea just out of surgery. They had to open up the side of his face.
All right. Yeah, for some reason, when you said that he'd been invited to the supper, I figured he was fine. So I won't bother him with that stuff if he's in surgery.
Did I say he was invited?
I might have just been reading his name on here and put it in myself. So.
Yeah, if I did, he shouldn't have been. Okay. It was I think it was he invites the comitus that was fine, but not the one that couldn't make it because he's still in the chirurgeon along with Chelsea, is what I said. So sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
But you can still, you succeed at your luck. You can visit him. He is awake.
I do. Yeah, I'll go check in on him.
Yeah, so it's probably going to keep switching like that damn mole on King Richard from Men in Tights.
Oh, yeah.
I need to make a note of which side of his head is messed up.
Yeah, I thought it was his left and he could lose the eye.
All right, so we'll stick with that. So, yeah, the most of the entire left side of his head is bandaged up, his face and head. And he's laying down when you reach him. One of the chirurgeons comes over when he sees you walking up, asks if you have any questions.
Yes. So how is he doing? What's the outcome? Will he lose the eye?
Let's find out. Dang it, computer. Come on. I think my mouse is going as part of the problem. No, I've managed to save the eye. He will have a little bit of a deformity on around his eye.
Well, he wasn't that handsome to begin with. But thank you for your skills. I was quite concerned. Is there anything that I can do for him?
No, all we need now is time to ensure that infection doesn't set in.
Okay.
So we'd like to keep him here a little bit longer to change the bandages as necessary. But he'll be able to get back out there afield in no time.
Okay. Well, anything he needs, chirurgeon. What do you call a chirurgeon? Is that what you call him?
Yeah,
you don't call him doctor, right?
You can call him a surgeon. That's what the word is derived from. It's basically pronounced the same, just chirurgeon.
Okay.
But I will accept surgeon if you... Doctor, I also accept too.
Let's call them chirurgeons from now on.
Oh, I'm fancy. I pronounce a CH as a K instead of a Ch.
Dude, are they
That's
also chitinous? Are they insect doctors?
That's why he's got three names, because he's so fancy.
My dad had delusions of grandeur.
Chelsea.
Okay. Well, I'll tell the surgeon then. I'll ask, what's the surgeon's name?
I don't have one. So
Marley.
Yeah, sure, go for it.
I'll tell him whatever Chelsea needs, whatever he needs. See to it.
No, that was his name. I don't have one.
Oh, okay.
I'm joking.
Surgeon, I don't have one. That's a silly name, and I order you to change it. Off with your head.
All right, so this is a military doctor, essentially. So he's going to do everything to the best of his ability.
Yeah.
Due to Chelsea's rank of captain. So it wouldn't like you would help in that, in kind of egging him on to do better.
It's just some encouragement.
Yeah. But this isn't some knight or just like unranked soldier here. This is actually someone of nobility. So he would. But Chelsea says he will he'll ride at your side right now if need be.
No, it's not necessary. You wouldn't want to anyway. I've been summoned to dine with my father and my uncle.
He, given the informality of your guys' relationship, friendship, he'll kind of they go, oh no.
It hurts so bad. I can't even move. Yeah.
But yeah, that's his state.
Okay. So, I guess nothing to do until it's time for dinner, but I am going to start thinking over what sorts of things I could do to, reward within reason and shift Fields over to more my, direct service. Because I'm pretty impressed with the way he handled things out there, especially the fact that he went along with me, even though he didn't, he clearly didn't necessarily believe that I knew what was going on.
Fields or Piscator?
Yeah, Fields.
Okay.
Yeah, the Piscator, he outranks me, so, I can't.
Yeah.
You're in my service now because you did a good job. But Fields, I like the cut of his jib.
All right.
And, I liked...
give me etiquette, Velix, if you got that.
I do. How's Velix?
Okay.
I don't like it when that happens.
I'm going to say that you can still attempt to. You can attempt to sway anyone,
Mm-hmm.
right? But you can't think of a way to do it with the time you probably have left as a Velix to shift him away from his lord, which is Piscator.
All right.
Right. Now, I mean, like, you could have your brother assassinated and take over Lord Marshal when your father dies. You could assassinate both of them.
I'm thinking about it.
And then Piscator doesn't really have a say in it because Fields, you would just promote Fields.
Well, at the very least, I do want to, thank him personally for sticking with me out there. And, and I'll just say something like, if you ever find yourself in need of a lord to serve or, there's always a place for you with me. And that way, if something happens, he knows he can come to me. And I wanted to tell him also, since he's their captain, that I was impressed with the. But who were the two guys, the ones that found me? And I'm trying to find their name.
Oh, I believe it was Samuel and Theo.
Yeah, that's the one, Samuel and Theo. I'll just extend a compliment to them as well.
He nods his head. He thanks you. He gives a salute as he does so, and says that you led your men well, and he would be willing to serve under your command again, and that he will pass on recommendations of, like some sort of, basically...
the Silver Cross.
I'm trying to... it essentially would be an honor, but it's kind of one where it's like just...
Yeah.
It doesn't hold any rank or title.
Just
it's
an
commendation.
Yeah. As they are two of his most reliable scouts.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so a little bit longer passes. Do you inform Leodin of her invite?
Yeah, I'll let her know. And I also wanted to...
Actually, let me retcon something. He doesn't invite her. Your father doesn't invite her.
Okay.
But he allows you to bring whoever you want. So if you want her to come, we'll change that now. So
yeah, okay. Well, I'll extend the invitation to her if she wants to come with me.
Okay.
But I also wanted to make sure she got to her aunt. Her aunt should still be in camp here, right?
Grandma, right? Nan?
Auntie...
Well, yeah, that's her.
Okay, but it's her grandma, but her name is Auntie
Shanae.
Shanae. Okay, so yeah, I want to, make sure they got back together.
Okay.
But yeah, I will, I'll extend an invitation to dine with me with my father this evening.
All right. So, you can send servants to go find her, or go lead you to there, where her tent is.
Yeah, I'll just go. I don't have anything better to do.
All right. So, when you get to the tent, it is next to Shanae's tent, and Shanae is currently in Leodin's tent, and she is talking to her, saying that she's basically in the middle of a lecture, like something, these herbs are wrong, what are you doing? Just micromanaging her granddaughter, who is sitting kind of with a bored expression on a stool nearby and giving little in the way of resistance to this deluge of unwanted and unsolicited advice
Yeah.
on how to do her job.
It's the only way to take advice from the old folks.
Yep. Just let it wash over you. And
yeah, I guess I'll just like,
so when Leodin looks your way, she stands up and kind of straightens her dress, and she gives a awkward curtsy. And my lord, and Shanae turns around and sees you, and she kind of walks over, and she's like, thumps you a couple times with her cane, and says that I heard the stories that you from my granddaughter. You trying to lure her into all sort of trouble. All you lords, you're all the same. Mm-hmm. And she's kind of just thumping you gently enough. She's not being too mean-spirited.
Yeah. No, whatever you've heard, I assure you, it's an exaggeration. But your granddaughter saved my life, and I am in her debt. So I have come to extend an invitation to you to dine with, to be my guest as we dine with my father this evening. The finest food the camp can offer, no doubt.
Shanae immediately accepts. He's like, I'd like to see your father's jib now that I'm going to be living under his...
My apologies, Aunt Shanae. I can only bring one guest.
She looks towards her granddaughter and then looks back. Age before beauty?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll give her like what would I use? Some sort of... do we have any sort of charm or a wink?
Oh, you just go with what we can do in the modern era. So, yeah, you can wink or...
Yeah, I'll give her like some sort of indication that I'm, interested in taking her granddaughter and not her to the dinner.
Yeah, she kind of lets out a exasperated sigh, and Leodin, yes, my lord, I'll accompany you. And her grandma kind of, fine, I'll just sit here, wasting away. Hadn't had anyone to talk to. Years now that you left, and you'll just go right on off. You figure that's a good enough time if you want to vacate the tent.
Yeah.
Leodin knows what time to show up. A servant will probably come and fetch her.
Yeah, I will.
So you can leave her to her grandmother's
yeah, I'll abandon
emotional manipulation.
Yeah,
All right, so we'll skip to the dinner. It's now time for that. It's commonly called the mess hall, but you would never guess it to be the mess hall given how the people there are dressed. Mm-hmm. Right, long table. It is nothing but commanders on the far end of the table, along with the Lord Marshal, and then the captains on the further end of the table. And depending on where you're sit, that's usually grounds enough to start to worry on your favorability with the Lord Marshal. But it is under a tent, a large pavilion, and the sides of that are currently open to allow cool wind or breeze in.
Okay.
Because it's starting to get warm even at night. You could go and pick up Leodin if you wanted before this, or you could just have a servant bring her. I'll leave that up to you.
No, I'll go get her. I'll walk her to the tent there.
So Leodin's dress, as in her outfit, her clothing, is not up to snuff, but she's a commoner. Your father and everyone at the table will know she's a commoner, so she's not going to get flack for it.
Okay.
But you, on the other hand, by the time you make it back to your tent, there is new clothes laid out for you, as I stated. And now, because you took some time going around the encampment, your armor is freshly polished, mended, and set out for you.
Okay.
And there is a servant waiting there if you wish to have help donning.
Yep. Yeah, I'll get changed up, and I'll have the servant help me. And while he does, I'll say, "Where's the horse that was riding? Where's the horn that was blowing? And he'll be like, I don't know what you're talking about, my lord.
He doesn't know what you're talking about, but he suddenly wants to hold a fortified location to the death.
Let me blow this horn.
So yeah, now we'll do the fast forward. So you pick up Leodin in your nice shiny armor, and then you both head to that dinner, and it's as I described earlier. And there are 2 empty seats just to the right of Roy Morgan that are for you. You're sitting at the right hand of essentially the second command of the army right now. Now, you could take offense to that.
No,
but
he's
earned his position.
No, yeah, that's not the thing that my character would take offense at. Absolutely not. No. There's as little attention as I can have on myself.
And then to his left, or your father's left, your father's sitting at the head of the table, of course. And then to his left is Comitus, or Commander Piscator.
Nice.
So you sit down, and there's idle small talk here or there. When you arrive to the table, your father stands up, which prompts everyone to stand, and then he welcomes you.
Thank you, Father, for the invitation. It is good to see you.
It's good to have you, son. It's been too long. Please, let us sit.
I guess it's probably etiquette then for me to introduce Leandin since I brought her, right?
No, you can.
Yeah, so I will. This is Leandin, whatever her full name would be. Instrumental in...
Malloy.
Malloy?
Yeah.
Instrumental in saving me and helping to rescue Duncan the Younger.
All right. Roll a insight or a spot. You can also do a sense, but they're difficult at this point in this location.
We'll do insight here.
All right.
Critical. I'm inciting everything.
All right.
Well
so
done.
I'm just going to give you a blanket thing now that you freaking critical. I'll give you the layout of everyone's emotion at the table here. Piscator is nervous. He usually doesn't sit this close to the Lord Marshal, so he's worried about slipping up. Your father is currently under the effect of whatever drug it is he's taking. You've also noticed that he's kind of peeved because the food being laid out before him is different than the food everyone else is eating. His diet seems to have switched to red meats, vegetables, and fruits, and a tea.
Okay.
Which, in the day, like being northern coastal people, fish is a lot of your diet. You also know that he picked up a lot of taste for the Prope Orientum way of dining, which is usually spicier. And when you say that Leodin is a Malloy, Roy Morgan, kind of has a reaction to that he's able to mask fairly well, but you're able to see through it.
That's my uncle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's a clansman to the islands to the southwest. If you look at the map, there's those groupings there, and that's all full of clans that are constantly fighting and warring with each other, but they still serve the crown, or the Stewart. They probably don't like the king. And so that's your sense motive. I'll keep that going because a critical's kind of rare to come by. So throughout the night. Anyway, now that we're all gathered, please sit. Let us enjoy this fine meal. Where you hear a bit of a disappointment when he says fine meal. And for the most part, it's idle conversation. Nothing really too important. Some of the more curious commanders will ask as to where Leodin hails from, what she does. Piscator will kind of be defensive about her if he feels that any of the commanders are trying to pick on her or talk down to her. He'll bring up the fact that she found them and led them to Landon, to you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what can I use here?
Etiquette is a good one. Insight, you have going right now, so I'll say that your etiquette would be easy if you wanted to complement it.
Okay. So I'll do etiquette, and basically the idea is simply Like, I'm a master that I've been doing my whole life, trying to keep the attention off me. I want it off of her. So I want to just steer the conversation towards something else.
All right. Well,
Right.
an easy topic. And if I could make it double easy, I would. So roll. But an easy topic is Alexander.
Yeah, perfect.
Low. Taking care of this problem with Low. And
Yeah.
that might be a little bit too touchy because it does involve your brother, Gerard.
Right.
But Alexander doesn't. He's an easy enemy to hate.
Yeah, and we're all here. So that's 2 times is when you're doing easy?
Mm-hmm.
2 times. Success there. Just to get the, attention off of Leandon and myself especially.
All right.
And get the conversation going to the point where I don't really need to participate and I can just pay attention.
Yeah, so you do probably one of the easiest ways to do it, and that is any news from Domus Solis, out of Domus Solis. Does Lachlan still hold? Does Lachlan and Bella still hold the spiral, or have they fallen? And that right there sets off a mixture of hearsay, and hints at what information your father receives from his spy networks. Right? He never comes out and says anything like this is what we know it to be, but he'll hint here or there that it appears that Bellis and Lachlan still hold their section of the spiral, and that Bellis has begun a long-term besiegement or Sarchados has begun a long-term besiegement of Bellis's southern gate. And no word from anyone getting out of the Cunabula itself once it was locked down, but there are some that believe that the Boy King is having problems with rebellion in his streets still. So, and that right there basically sets the entire table off into various discussions, everything from strategic planning to rumors and hearsay. Apparently a rumor has started that Alexander is bathing in the blood of rebels he finds and eating them, that his table is littered with the scraps of human remains. That's more from the far end of the table. A lot of the commanders don't broker any of that. They don't believe that he showed signs of wanton cannibalism before, and that unless something is seriously wrong, they doubt he would do so now that he has declared himself king. But who knows? He does take a bit of a loony bin to think that they've risen high enough to take over the seat of a god. So
yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, who can say what people like that will do?
Yeah. But the limelight is now firmly off of you and Leodin. But Roy Morgan will make conversation with her because he recognizes the name Malloy, and he's kind of asking after that. And from what little you pick up of their conversation, it seems like Malloys were wiped out a while back.
Okay.
And it's rare to find one in the modern era. You also notice that he's more respectful to her than he would be to most other people, because he calls her priestess, and he seems to be watching his language around her.
Oh, okay. So when I first introduced her, I must have missed it. I got the sense that he was not happy.
No, your critical would definitely tell you that he was fine with her. He was more surprised.
Okay, it was just surprised. Okay, perfect.
So they actually kind of start talking around you as polite as can be. Not that Morgan really is one for formalities or politeness.
Yeah.
But they're kind of talking more about home, like back on the islands, because they're both kind of exiled in a way from it, right? Morgan's here working and is duty bound, so he can't visit home.
Okay.
Oh, well, I mean, the islands. He has his own home out in the north with his wife and all his mess of kids.
Yeah.
But that's your guys' land. It's not home.
Right.
And so this dinner drags on. Oh, well, maybe not drag. I guess it depends on your feeling about formal seating and dinners. Is there any particular questions that you'd want to field, or are you just going to let the conversation just go its way and not?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm really interested in is not something that they're likely to talk about with this many people present, which is what we're going to do about my brother. So really, I'm just going to pay attention. I'm just going to watch everybody and hear what people say and try to get a sense of what the near-term plans are going to be for the war and see if anybody lets anything slip.
All right. Yeah, Morgan, again, basically, when some of the conversation comes up with that, again, fields the absolutely atrocious idea of just burning as much of the Kunabula as possible and letting the glass take care of the rest. To which your father says no with like a caveat, essentially. Like, if only we have to, is kind of the underlying there. But a lot of the other people at the table seem to think that there won't be anyone left in the Kunabula except Alexander and his men if we delay longer, is the overall feeling you get. For the most part, it seems like everyone else is kind of on board with meeting up. First off, seeing if a man, a comitus or a dukes by the name of Keegan, is on their side or not, because apparently rumors are that he is neutral and hasn't joined any side yet. But rumors are also that Sarcherdos's bulk of her army is outside the Kunabula. A lot of them are blaming her for the brigandry that's happening around the area. And they just need to take care of her measly 2,000 men. And they could probably easily do that because her manor, because she's not down in the spiral right now, she's up on the top, her manor being basically unguarded, that they should just go and sack it and take her hostage, and form her men to lay down their arms, take them prisoner, and then just go into the Kunabula and join forces with Lachlan and Bellis and push out into the actual city proper, into Damas Solis, because Alexander cannot have more than the combined might of your army with Lo. And if he and his dragoons, fabled as they are, don't number more than 1,000. So they're expecting an easy route. They just got to get out of the spiral. First they got to get there, and right now the north gate's closed. So
hey, how do you spell Kunabula?
Basically how it sounds. Damas Solis, Cunabula, and it means the cradle.
Okay. And that's Alexander's all fortified down in there?
He's fortified in the Castrum Solis.
Okay.
The Kunabula is the entire valley that Damas Solis sits in.
Okay.
All right. So, a messenger comes up about midway or through the later half of this dinner, and he stopped at the entrance to the tent by the guards that are standing out there right now. A message is handed off, and then one of the guards runs that to your father's end of the table, at which point it is then handed to essentially the man acting as a seneschal to your father currently, who looks it over real quick, doesn't open it, just makes sure that there's no immediate things, holds up to some candlelight real quick, make sure there's no hidden needles or anything else that could be potentially used, and then hands it to your father, who breaks the seal with his thumb and opens it up and begins reading over it.
Yeah, I'll just be hyper-focused on his face at this point, see what I can gather from his reactions, even though I don't know him that well anymore.
Now I'm going to carry on your critical. So to many, including yourself at most other nights, you would probably say his face is unreadable. The drug that he consumes does affect that, because it kind of forces a calmness upon him that is unnatural, but not like supernatural, right? It's just he's not experiencing emotions the same way.
Yeah.
But to you, because you rolled that critical, you're getting a kind of a sense of annoyance and maybe amusement from him. Like, And then he holds out the letter between his pointer, or between his index and middle finger towards Roy Morgan, and he says, your name, Landon. And Roy grabs the message and passes it to you.
Oh, okay.
So, let me share this with you. Notes and letters. How would I put it? Low. Where did I hand it? Letters and notes. Yeah, my mouse is going. There we go. Player's journal. Landon Velix. I forget if I need to make it where you can edit it to be able to read it or not. We'll see. Pop up.
Okay.
Can you read it?
Yeah.
All right. So, Dux Velix, ruler of Custos Fluminus and lord of the Northern Sea, first let me offer my sincerest thanks for the safe return of my son. Since his return, he has made it clear to me that in my worry over his abduction, I may have been a bit hasty in placing the blame at the feet of your noble house. That said, I still believe my rashness to be somewhat warranted given the mistreatment of my wife as well as my house at the hands of your son, your eldest son. That said, I believe that the time has come for us to meet and discuss these matters, among other more pressing issues that will affect both our houses' futures, face to face. If it pleases you, come to the castrum on the morrow, and we will break our fast together and hopefully put these transgressions aside so that we may stand united against the looming blasphemous threat that is the false king Alexander. P.S. My son speaks highly of Landon. It would please me if you brought him to this meeting as well, so that I might speak with him and thank him in person for risking his own life in the return of my son. But if he is up to the task. My son has given me conflicting stories as to the state of Landon's health. One story says that he was wounded in battle, seemingly killed after being ran through and falling from his horse, only to appear whole and hale to rescue my son with 40 men at his back. If his wounds persist, then please allow him to rest, and I will meet with him another time. P.P.S. I have also heard tell of a young woman that was in the company of Landon. My son tells me that while Landon saved him from his captors, it was she who saved him from the throes of his illness. I will take this opportunity to extend an invitation to her as well. Dukes Duncan Lowe, Lord of the Muros, and gateway to the Southlands. So while you read that, your father, much like you had watched his face, now watches yours.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'll read that then, and then I'll look at my father.
Well, it seems that I must, he asks you, well, what do you make of it?
Well, it would, I think, be better if we had them on our side rather than, put our forces against each other, which seems to be the way it was leaning.
I agree with that.
Might be wise to have a meeting with them and discuss plans for the future.
And your wounds, do they persist? Now, he wasn't told that you had been wounded as such, unless you told him when you met him.
No, I didn't. I was wounded, Father, but, Landon is a skilled healer, and so I am back at full strength.
Mm-hmm. Would you like to attend this meeting, then?
I would be honored to serve.
Mm-hmm. And now that you're here as well, Leodin, I assume? Yes, my lord? Then I will extend an invitation to you as well. Yes, my lord? And, very well. It seems I must cut this meal short if I am to make it to the castrum before Solar rises in the morning. If you wish it, then I will await you on outside the southern perimeter in the morning, Landon. But I have things that I must attend to before then. And then he addresses the table. Please finish your meals, Piscator. I expect an appropriate-sized honor guard in the morning. See to it. But I must rest and take my leave of you now. He stands up. Everyone stands up. save Leodin. If you want, you can make a etiquette to kind of help her through this. But she looks around for a second, and she's beginning to stand. Everyone's saluting, and you're seeing her kind of hesitant on whether or not she should also salute. So you just don't catch it in time. This has been kind of ingrained into your bones by this point. You salute because you're of a rank. People that are not of a rank do not salute. She should curtsy or bow.
Right.
But she gives a salute, hand to her chest, and your father doesn't even notice. He just walks away. Roy Morgan, once your father's out of the way or has left the area, kind of laughs and, well, didn't know you joined forces with us last. And Leodin kind of blushes and just sits down and kind of wants to seem to sink into her chair. But the rest of the night passes without incident. If there's anything you want to do, you can speak now.
There is only one thing else I want to do.
All right.
And that's just to send the word out through the camp for anybody with local history knowledge that I might be interested in talking to. I want to try and find out more about Castrum Noctis. But that's it. That's the only thing. Oh, I'd check on, I don't know. I guess I'll snag something good off the table that I know Chelsea likes and take it to him in his chirurgery. And
all right.
But that's pretty much it.
Give me a luck. This will cover both the ability to find a historian and which you figure there might be one in the castrum.
Yeah.
That'd be easy enough if you wanted to wait.
Well, just see who we've got.
But you wouldn't be able to bring him to the camp, right? He'd be working in and about the various buildings in areas of northern and southern Muros. And this will also cover bringing Chelsea some food, which you succeed at.
Yeah.
In both cases. Roll a 1d4 for me.
1.
All right. So a historian will be found in New Northern Muros tomorrow.
Okay. All right.
And Chelsea thanks you. And, stewed lamb, my favorite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got you the eyeball.
As him and Ollie become one. Wait a minute. Your guardsman, Chelsea? All right. Now, we will head on over to the 4th new summer. It is the morning, and it will be Hadrius and Jardane. Now, yesterday, the Seneschal informed you to head to the castrum in the morning and make yourselves known so that the signing of appropriate documentation and contracts could happen. I forgot if I told you that last week.
That was the idea I had.
Okay.
So you must have.
But unfortunately for Jardane, he awakes feverish on the 4th. And he's complaining that he's too sickly to go into the castrum, to leave his bed.
Are you quite sure, Dane? You are a fragile young man, aren't you? Fever of the mind, fever of the body. All right, very well. Can I fetch you anything before I attend to the day's business?
Yeah, he says no. And kind of just pulls the blankets back up over his head.
I'll look to Ollie and ask him to keep an eye on Dane for me. Make sure he drinks water.
Well, in this time, depending on, there is clean water. It is a crime to pollute the waters from the local wells.
Well, drink what we would drink normally.
But, it's a lot of teas, ales still. Ollie kind of gives a nod. He gives a nod and a wink. Put him out of his misery, right?
If it comes to that. You hear that, Dane? No belly aching now.
So you sit off for Castrum Low.
Good. Okay, yeah, and I have, at some point, hopefully had the opportunity to write down my findings in my proposal for the Lord to peruse.
Okay.
The detailed part of it, the numbers, estimates, the route, the cost I might think it would be. So that way he would be able to see like what the margin is, right?
Yeah.
Thin, no doubt, dealing with copper.
Well, it's the amount, right? So like,
yeah.
And because of how the monetary system works in this, you're getting it for cheap. You would just attempt to essentially sell it for average, which is essentially doubling your money. That's actually not too bad.
That would be good margins, yeah.
But you could fail and still sell it for cheap because it's going to be bargain checks.
But you gussy it up a bit so it looks like I know what I'm doing. Maybe not that much.
All right, so you arrive at the castrum. Oh, well, first, the day greets you cool and calm in this early morning. The eastern horizon is just beginning to brighten. In the early morning quiet is broken by the ringing of multiple bells from different locations throughout the cities, because you can also think you hear them in the distance to beyond the northern Muros. And this is calls to prayer, essentially, to greet Solar and give thanks for the morning sun. And in a short time, you are crossing the drawbridge in Old Town to Castrum Low. And you're kind of surprised because the north gate is open and there is now a fairly extensive line of people waiting for audience with Low.
Guess we got in at the right time.
So there are a couple pages running around. If you want, you can grab one up.
Yeah, I will. I'll see if I can notice the one from the other day and deal with him if possible. But if not, any page will do.
All right. So you're able to flag one, or give me a luck, or a status will work. Okay,
we'll try status. Nope. Failure.
So you're blending in with the common folk right now. You could try an etiquette. That's what I should have said immediately. Yeah, you might have to try an etiquette here and just kind of be rude about it. Grab one by the scruff of a neck and...
Well, I have very little in the way of etiquette, being humble as I am.
But you might be able to just wait it out. It might just take you longer than you thought it would.
I accidentally rolled it, but that's also a failure.
Yeah, they're just ignoring you for a bit. And so it's one of those where like every time you raise a finger or go to call out, something happens and they go running off. The castrum seems to be very busy, not just with the number of people wanting to receive an audience with Low, but just in general, there seems to be a hustle and bustle there. There seems to be guards in fancy dress, like housemen, house soldiers, house guards in fancier dress and armor, and they appear to be lining up on the northern drawbridge, or on the other side, out past the gate on the streets. Right.
Well, it won't do to be too imposing, I think, so I'll just have to bide my time with the rest of the common folk.
All right. So eventually, a small boy of about 11, maybe 12, does notice you, and he's like, "You were here yesterday, weren't you, sir?"
"Yes, I was. Good eye, boy."
"The Seneschal told me to keep an eye out for you. Told you to take you inside, that you have business."
"Yes, indeed. I'm glad you noticed. Thank you very much."
He gives a proper bow and fairly well enough for a man of your status, which is fairly low.
Yeah.
And he turns on his heel and marches off into the castrum, walking past the line of people.
Okay, I'll follow. And when we arrive, I'll give him my customary half cheap, maybe. I'll go to reach my hand in my pocket, see what's in there.
He gestures no when you go to reach for any sort of coinage.
Goodness, what are you trying to do, boy? Turning down money? What are people going to think of you?
His clothing, much like Jardane's.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very well. Well, clothing only lasts so long.
But he leads you to a room fairly early on in the castrum. It seems to be just a well-decorated, well-furnished sitting room. And "Wait here, sir." someone will come with proper documentation and status and discuss the... He doesn't know. I'll go find the appropriate people for you, sir, and I'll let the Seneschal know that you're here.
Thank you.
That said, much like most waiting, always takes longer than you believe, and a half hour passes before you hear sounds outside the hallway coming up on your door.
Yeah, I'll look up expectantly and stand.
So a half hour has passed before you hear those, and the door opens, and in strides a servant who in a clear, clean voice announces Cometis Lo, heir to the Muros, and gives a bow. And this is followed by a handful of guards entering the room, and following that is a man who is the spitting image of Duke Slow, some 20 years younger. He's clean-shaven with short-cropped black hair, now heavily grayed at his temples. From the corner of his mouth juts a simple clay pipe, from which wisps of pleasant-smelling smoke begin to fill the room. That said, he is somewhat ghoulish in appearance, being far too thin. And he walks in. You know enough proper etiquette that you're supposed to stand and bow to your betters.
Right, yeah.
And if you are wearing a hat, you should probably take that off when entering the castrum, but if not, you would do so now.
Yeah. I do not wear a hat, but I will bow.
He nods and acknowledges your bow, and then gestures for you to sit, and he sits on the other side of the table. He has with him some papers. As he said, he lays these papers out before him and kind of looks them over. He says, first I must apologize for my father's absence, as he is receiving what audiences he can for the day before attending to other matters of state. As requested, he has requested that I oversee the remainder of these negotiations.
I understand.
He occasionally is looking up from the document as he's speaking to you. He's reading it over. Then he sits them down, turns them around, and slides them across the table to you. My father had these drawn up last night. Please take a look at your leisure and make any changes that you might wish, and I will share those with you. Because the Seneschal did know that you were going for copper.
Yeah.
Okay. I am not a contract drawer upper or negotiator of, so there's going to be probably some flaws here, and worst comes to worst, just we can just hand wave it, and
right.
It is a contract that is well written. Save, come on, save those. So one appears to be a writ to a bank. It's essentially a bank note, I guess would be another term for it. And the other is the actual contract. And the contract reads, I, Duke Stunkenlow, Lord of the Moros and the surrounding lands, do hereby enter into mutual business partnership with one. Sign your name. For my part, I offer up a one-time investment of 322 denarii, to be spent on the purchase of goods, writs, and the means to see said goods transported safely for the purposes of sale to wheresoever they might fetch a fair price. On the matter of the investment, I seek 50%. I seek 50% of all profits. I didn't write it in here, unfortunately, but it would be until the loan is repaid.
Right.
If the business fails before such a time on the investment, and the investment is not repaid, then the remainder will be seen as debt to be repaid within 5 years. Signed, Duke Stunkenlow, Lord of the Moros, Gatekeeper of the Southlands. And the writ would be given to a bank, a member of the counting house. I, Duke Stunkenlow, Lord of the Moros, Gatekeeper of the Southlands, do hereby request that the bearer of this writ be given a small loan in my name for no more than 322 denarii, for the purpose of establishing trade. And now for money notations, the D is denarius, which is the currency of the land, and the small a means average.
Okay.
For the purposes of this, the lowercase ones are their proper denomination. So C, A, and E would be cheap, average, expensive, and a capital 1 means that's been modified.
Right.
So yeah, he slides that over to you.
Yeah, so I'll make, actually very thoroughly look it over, and while I'm looking it over, just wondering if the loan amount will fit the plan I have sketched out in my head.
You can roll an appraise. I'm trying to think of some other ones, like a bargain I'd also allow if that's better.
We can go with appraise. That works
Okay.
perfectly.
Yeah, you can complement it with bargain if you want to. You can push that, or you can. Is it?
What's the complements? 1/5, right?
Yeah, 5th. You can complement it with bargain or status.
Would that be, or use PowerPoint potentially?
Is it mental?
Yes.
Yeah,
Appraise is.
Okay, yeah. You can. What would that be? That's like 12. So it'd be 6 PowerPoints.
But having a complementary skill would raise it by 1587. Do I do one or the other? Can I use PowerPoints on a complementary?
It's one or the other.
Yeah, I guess I'll go the PowerPoints way for just a regular success. 6
All right.
points, you say?
Yeah.
Okay. And if it seems sufficient or close enough that my overconfidence in my ability to bargain will cover the difference, then I'll go ahead and sign.
All right. So, you can also negotiate still.
Right.
Because that 50% of all your profits until the debt is repaid
is
kind of steep. Then after that, he's still probably going to tax.
Yeah. Well, let's. So what did I get from the appraised? Do I feel like sufficient on the loan?
322 denarius is maybe about 100 more than you think you would need for just the goods and the wagons.
That's what I call my running money.
Yeah. Now, depending on how much the writs are costing,
right,
and depending on how many guards you feel you want to hire, and how expensive the ship captains, what they're going to charge you for filling up their hold, and it's going to probably take multiple ships depending on how much copper you want to buy. Now, this is going off of what you were telling me last week that you were kind of hinting at, 5 wagons worth.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you could easily fill up holds, whole ship holds.
Right.
Of decent-sized sailing ships, stuff that's meant to go over the ocean, with copper fairly quickly. So you figure 100 over is fairly good, but could get eaten up pretty quick if you're not on the ball and micromanaging some of this investment here or there, right?
Right.
But yeah, 100's a decent amount of spare change to see stuff done. And it more than will cover 5 wagons and 5 horses.
Yeah.
Or, 20 horses.
I'll take a gentle prod at the repayment and then just suggest that in dealing with copper, my lord, the margins will be quite small, and I fear for covering just the cost of my maintenance. I'm not an ostentatious man by any means. Simple fare and simple lodgings do for me, but I don't know if it would befit your lord's reputation if a merchant is seen as a beggar when he goes to market.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps 30% of all profits until repaid. Of course, I aim to do better than you and your lord may think, so perhaps I'll make bulk payments as my fortune sails to heaven.
Well, you seem to think highly of yourself, Adrius. It's always good. Confidence is a must for the merchant trade, I hear, especially down in Mars Oris.
Yes, many men run a good trade on only their confidence.
Where is your apprentice as well? I mean, the deal is meant with you, but...
Yes, he is, I'm
just wondering after him.
At our lodgings. He's taken ill for the day.
Most unfortunate.
Traveling rough. I think it's finally caught up with him.
There is a note in my notes here that I would have had you both roll status.
Oh,
and he would have began speaking to the one who won that roll.
Would have won. What is his status anyway?
I guess I was going to say I don't know, but
It's not a big deal. I know he beat me. I think it was like 70 something. Or it's up there.
PC.
Last time.
So roll a bargain for me. Jardine.
Success.
Where is it? I just saw it. I cannot find it on this damn sheet. There it is. He's got a 30. You don't got too much to worry about.
Okay. It just happens to wear nicer clothes at the moment.
Well,
she'll have to remedy that.
It's also John, so.
That's true. I got to account for our luck differences. Reckon I need 5 times the skill rating to outdo his rolls.
So, Comitus Duncan Lowe, Duncan the Younger, he's like, you don't have a bad thing to say about him. His rather shocking appearance aside, yeah. And he seems to be fairly well enough versed in this, but not nearly as well as you. And so you're kind of able to use his kind and maybe perhaps slightly naive demeanor, which you find odd saying that about one his age, who is probably 20 years your senior. He's probably in his 40s.
Yeah. Well, like most people of noble birth, I assume his wisdom lies in other ways than how the world works at the mercantile level.
Mm-hmm. So, Lowe agrees, or is about to agree with this, I'll say.
Is Sineshal going to come and ruin everything?
Yep. So, you're negotiating, you're bargaining, you're trying to get it down to 30, or right? 25, 30?
30.
30. And he kind of seems to want to go for it. But he's kind of going through the motions is what you're picking up here, right? When the door opens.
Delaying.
And a servant walks in and whispers in his ear, or speaks quietly. You can attempt to listen if you want.
Yeah, sure. Might as well. Success.
And you overhear the servant saying that, apologies, my lord, but your father's guests have arrived. And then he stands up and walks away, and Lowe turns to you and says, apologies. We will have to delay negotiations till tomorrow at least.
Pat my pocket where my coins are and say, very well.
Unless you...
My lord. Yes.
All right. Unless you wish to sit here and wait, I have no clue as to how long this task I have to perform will be. I have to entertain some guests.
No, by all means. I am an abundance of patience. And but I do have some things to attend to with the rest of my day, so perhaps it would be best if I meet you tomorrow.
Very well, then. I look forward to it, Hadrius. And he stands up.
I'll stand up, offer my bow. It was my pleasure.
He acknowledges that. Oscar, he points to the page who led you in here. We'll see you out.
Thank you again, my lord.
And he turns, and the guards march out first, and then he follows, and then his servants, save for Oscar, who is standing nearby, waiting for you to leave.
Yeah, I'll follow him.
Oh, that said, there was refreshments and food brought for you before Lowe arrived. I apologize, I didn't.
Okay.
So if you want, you can stuff your pockets with some ham or something.
Yeah, I'll bring some pocket ham home to Dane. Helps with the fever.
So Oscar opens the door to go out, but the hallway has currently become crowded and is very much bustling with servants running back and forth. He kind of looks at you and he's, I would suggest we wait. If you want, we can attempt to brave it.
Is he suggesting that I wait for them to be done with their thing, or wait for...
Until it calms down.
Oh, okay. Oh, yes. Well, you know best, Oscar. Oliver? I've forgotten your name already.
Oscar, my lord.
Oscar, yes. Very good. Yeah, let's wait. How do you like...
Dyson?
Dyson. All right. Or cards? I suppose cards would be more appropriate.
All right, roll your gaming. His eyes light up. Oh, I rather love games, my lord.
Not doing well today.
You can always push.
No,
Let it stand.
yeah, I'll see that my luck's not in, and I'll be like, I always do a little bit better when some coin's on the line. Would you gamble for half a cheap?
He, unfortunately, I don't have any pennies on me, my lord, but, we can play for, and he pulls out an average.
An average? Goodness.
Pocket
right.
change, right, my lord?
Yes, indeed. Well, let's have a go at it then.
All right, if you want, you can do like an insight. If you're playing cards, if you're playing dice.
Do like an insight?
Yeah, well, you
Okay.
can do it either way.
Not very insightful. I'll give it a shot. Nope.
All right.
He's got a face like a pond with no wind blowing in.
Well, he's a very, just kind of, he's not very rambunctious, I guess. So he's just very kind of a placid type
Right.
child. So it's hard to read him.
Well, I'll pay him, well, I guess he could slide the pot over to himself.
No, he'll let it ride.
Oh, he wants to go again?
Oh, he hasn't rolled yet,
Oh,
actually.
okay.
And that was your insight. So you still need to roll your gaming.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
It just isn't modified. Well, we just won't modify it. You just can't read him.
I got a
There you
success
go.
on that one.
And he failed his too. He didn't do too good at Dyson. Yeah, he fails. So he's like, so he kind of, his shoulder, well, this is an ongoing thing, right? So there's
Right.
wins and losses, but you are up an average when the game ends.
Okay. Well, now, told you my luck was better when coin was on the line.
But it won't end by the time I switch back over to Brandon. So it's the next morning. There is a servant waiting in your tent. In fact, that's what wakes you up. If you want to get up at that point, you may, or you can attempt to continue sleeping. But he's just readying your change of clothes and laying out your armor.
Yeah, I'll get up.
All right. So he offers to help you dress and don your armor.
Yep.
All right. And Leodin did offer to go. So when you go outside your tent, you find her standing there, waiting.
Okay.
She looks very nervous.
Mm.
She's dressed in her best clothing, but that just means that they're less patched than her other dresses.
All right. And how long do we have before we've got to go?
He wants to leave before morning. So right now it's probably about 5, and it's summertime. So sunrise is going to probably start around 6. So you got about an hour before he wants to, maybe a half hour before he wants to go.
All right. No time. But so I'll just, offer my arm and we'll go join wherever the people are that are going to be going.
Your servant says that horses are being brought.
Yes, horses.
If you wish.
Yes, of course.
In a short time, 2 stable men come up leading those horses.
All right.
Leodin's has the obvious look of a like a servant or a pack horse. Not quite as bad as a pack horse, but something that's more meant for manual labor or carrying goods.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas yours has it's one of a stable that you probably choose from in your case.
Yeah.
But it has the look of a war horse.
Okay.
Leodin tries to get onto the horse, but it begins to kind of dance away from her, and the stable man has to calm it down. She seems very nervous, and she is very awkward in the saddle. I'll
provide some encouragement to her. I'll just say, it'll be fine.
She looks at you with an almost pleading, desperate, this isn't how people were meant to travel look.
Mm-hmm.
But she doesn't say anything. She's more focused on staying upright in the saddle.
Okay.
You make your way through the camp, and outside the southern perimeter, you see your father, Roy Morgan, and Comitis Piscator at the head of a column of likewise mounted men.
Okay.
Your father's kind of tapping his riding gloves, in one hand, waiting impatiently.
Okay. So I'll salute him and say, "Good morning, Father."
He acknowledges your salute with a nod. "Good morning, Landon. About time." And then he nods to Leodin as well, but doesn't really say anything to her. And then he turns to Piscator and gives a nod to him. Felix then shouts out in a loud and clear voice that the company, or the honor guard, forward, canter. And he lightly touches his spurs into the flanks of his horse and begins to set off first at a walk and then speeding up to a canter. Your father, Morgan, yourself, and the rest of the men are able to do that without a problem, but you're kind of worried about Leodin. You can...
Well, I mean, maybe I can just have her go join for the ride at least. You know, what are they called? The servants that are following or whatever.
Yeah, you could have her do that. You can also make a ride check of your own.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
And essentially grab her reins.
Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll pull over closer to her and give her some assistance there.
So yeah, she
Oh, what, are we going to get pulled off of the horse?
No, not unless you push it.
No, I'm not going to push it. That'd be bad. I'll just try and give her some help and not be very good at it.
So she gives a couple taps to the horse, and thankfully she's off a little bit to the side, but it doesn't want to start going at first, is how I'm going to say that. And you miss catching her reins in time, and so she's kind of just left behind.
Okay.
And roll a luck. Your father notices.
Sorry, Dad. I didn't know she don't know how to ride a horse.
And he's kind of looking at you. And Roy Morgan's kind of like looking at you too. And he's like, "You just got to leave a lass back there?" So Roy Morgan's telling you to break rank.
Yeah, then I'll do that. I'll go gather her up.
Yeah, your father doesn't object. And so you ride back and you grab her reins. And she's bright red. She could probably light the morning for you right now.
Poor girl.
And she kind of mutters a thank you when you get the horse going for her. And once it knows what the rider wants it to do, the horse can basically take care of itself. So,
Yeah.
So, as you ride, the miles pass beneath the hooves of your horse. The light of Luna begins to wane from the sky as the east begins to brighten, and Solar crests the mountains to the east. Your entrance into the northern Muros city, the city proper, is a less than welcome one. Not unwelcomed. You're not meeting resistance, but many of the common folk retreat into their homes, and the sounds of shutters closing mingle with the clops of shoed hooves on the cobbled stone. You hear several gasps of "it's them," the abductors, the rapists, the murderers, all sorts of vile things, all in hush. They're not throwing fruit at you, or vegetables, but they are fleeing, and you. Seems that your notorious reputations have moved further afield than just the castrum.
Yeah. Okay.
And soon the north gate comes into view. It's an imposing visage, that of Cunabula Vitrum, cradle glass, is only diminished by the sight of the castrum low itself, black and imposing, its steeple-like towers reaching up into the heavens as if to greet Solar. Currently standing, opened, and flanked by men, the north gate is currently opened and flanked by men of house low, dressed in freshly polished armor. Their halberds are canted at an angle, and this is the closest to ceremony or welcome that you get coming into the city. When your father, Roy Morgan, and Piscator first hit that first line of guardsmen, a shout does ring out announcing your caravan, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be kind of late morning, early afternoon by the time this is happening, which, Travis, from where you are currently seated in that room, you hear a shout ring out, followed shortly by a multitude of shoed hooves on the courtyard outside. So you're guessing this is what the commotion is about?
Or what we were held up by.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But now my mind is in the game.
Sweat drips down your brow, and Oscar wears a bemused half grin.
Oscar no longer looks like a page boy, but an insidious demon of luck.
You still wear your shoes, merchant? I think I shall.
Double down. Double or nothing.
Nearby, a small group of other pages that have snuck away from their duties have gathered. They're all scarred, missing teeth. Take him for everything he's worth, Oscar. So you ride past the gate into the onto the lower drawbridge and into the castrum courtyard proper, Landon. Outside is a small honor guard, and you are greeted by the ghastly appearing Duncan the Younger. Okay. He wears a warm smile, but that warmth is somewhat diminished by his still thin appearance. But compared to the last time you saw him, he might as well be doing cartwheels. When you guys pull up, Piscator kind of falls back slightly to about where you are, and your father takes the lead. And Duncan calls out, "Honorable Duke Slow, on behalf of my noble father, it is my pleasure to welcome you to Castrum Low." When Duncan speaks, his voice sounds strong, beguiling any given based on his appearance, or not matching his skeletal appearance, I guess I should say. I misspoke. Leofric dismounts from his horse and stands before Duncan Low and gives a bow far lower than what would normally be considered from his station, especially to a comitus.
Mm-hmm.
You honor me, Comitus Low. Long have our two houses stood side by side at the right hand of Solar, now for 2,000 years or more. Yet it is only now that we squabble, when our great homeland needs us, united as one, that now it is when our great homeland, that traitors and blasphemers are merged from all sides to drive wedges between us. As Leofric speaks, he scans the crowd, a gathering of common folk that were there waiting for audience with Low, and the housemen of Low, as well as some servants that were in the courtyard. So he's scanning all of them. If you wish, you can too. You can roll spots, insights, and the spot or insight can also be used to complement the other.
Yeah, I'll do an insight.
You're hearing this as well, Travis. Hadrius can hear it. He's now hearing fairly clearly the voice of Velix, but Low's voice was kind of muffled.
Okay. I'll maybe give half an ear to it.
Mm-hmm.
Between hands.
Insight, all right.
Got a success.
So, as your father gives his speech, you also scan the crowd. This is something that you've been taught to do by both your father as well as Magnate Baxter, whom you stayed with for a good chunk of your life. And you kind of immediately pick out people. Yeah, you dismiss those that seem to be absent-mindedly nodding and agreeing with your father's speech, despite the fact that just moments ago, any one of these men out here that are nodding would probably have called a pox down upon your house, but your father's pretty good at oration. People that... So now you scan for those that are openly expressing anger, overly indifferent, But most importantly, the face of concentration one wears when they're going to have to report something, when they're having to remember intently. And you hit pay dirt. As you scan the crowd, your eyes land upon a servant holding a broom on the far side of the courtyard. His face is a mask of indifference for the most part, but he seems to be overtly staring at your father and Duncan the younger. And something about it, like, servants usually wear a passive face, so indifference isn't that odd, but that look of concentration, usually the indifference isn't feigned. And a lot of the lesser servants, if you're seneschal, you got to pay attention if you're a higher ranking servant, but a boy, young man who's sweeping the courtyard,
Yeah.
He's looking off in the distance probably, but not this one. So your father finishes his speech with I come to you now so that those squabbles can be put aside and the true enemy, the self-titled Alexander, can be put down like the rabid dog he is. From the common folk, you hear cries and cheers of kill the bastard and down with the pretender, and that's intermingled with a cheer from those peasants that were around. They are in agreement. Is there anything that you'd like to do, Travis?
Not anything that I'm not already doing.
All right. Anything you'd like to do?
Yeah, so the one servant that I have been watching, I just want to, look for any sort of identifying features or something that stands out so I could find him or describe him later.
All right. Give me a spot. Yeah, you could also do a sense to kind of remember more his aura, but all senses are difficult right now.
Yeah.
Okay. And you actively do feel something like that. What was it? I believe I described it as like a wary dog, wondering if it should bite.
Outside it, yeah.
Yeah, you're still feeling that.
Yeah, I'm a little too nervous for that at this point, but the spot's a failure, as always.
All right. So you think you might be able to describe him, but he's fairly nondescript already.
Yeah.
One commoner is the same as another.
Right. Okay. But I did definitely notice that he was really focused in on the speech, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So with that, your father's speech finished. Duncan Lowe and him turn and begin to walk together into the castrum, led by a small army of servants and guards. A chunk of the honor guard is allowed entry. This is just kind of like expected.
Yeah.
But most of them would be taken through other means into the castrum and be fed and seen to.
Mm-hmm.
So Piscator, yourself, Morgan, and then you would be followed by your guard.
Yeah.
Into the castrum. You've been in here before. It's well carpeted. The walls are painted so as to allow light to bounce and brighten up the interior, which is also Cunabula Vitrum. And so otherwise it would be like walking through a dark room. Might as well close your eyes. And that is where we will end for the day. Is you walking down the hallway to the audience room, most likely, of Dukes Duncan Lowe and Travis, hearing feet on the hallway outside.
All right.
While he sweats buckets.
So far, I'm winning. But what does it mean to win against the page boy?
You would have your one average by the time this session ends.
Okay. This has been a Deathwatch production. Thank you for listening.